You know, the best things in life can never be planned. Spontaneity rules the cosmos. And this applies to motorcycle purchases too. Because last year when I bought this Buell XB12X Ulysses, it was completely spontaneous. It's a bike that I was aware of, but never once gave a thought to as far as, you know, buying one. I'm just not an adventure bike guy. But this thing popped up on Marketplace. It was close, and I says, let's go take a look at it. And I bought it before I even rode it. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take it. So we brought it home, and I shot a quick video on it entitled, oddly enough, I impulse bought a XB12X Ulysses. And I did just a quick impression, my first impressions of the bike. So now it's a year later, and I've put about 3,000 miles on it. I've really gotten to know this thing, and it's become a member of my permanent fleet. It takes a lot to become a permanent in my fleet. This one has what it takes. It's easily one of the most charismatic and enigmatic motorcycles I've ever encountered. Now, over the last year or so, we've gone through several bikes. I picked up that Goldwing, that cheap Goldwing, and I rode it for a few days, did a video on it. I rode it for a few days, and I realized, yeah, you know, this is just totally not my cup of tea. So I sent it down the road. And there were a couple others, I can't even remember what that SV650. So I bought a 2001 SV650, and what a blast that bike was, just amazing. But for me, it was like kind of too much fun. It was too light, too flickable, too responsive, and I found myself getting in over my head more than once. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna send this thing down the road before it sends me back to the hospital. So I sent it down the road. But this thing stuck for a number of reasons. So, like I said, I got about 3,000 miles on it so far. And let's just go front to back on this and give you guys the update on it, my impressions, and whether or not this bike might work for you. So, they market this as an adventure bike. And this is like where part of the enigmatic thing comes in. They market it as an adventure bike, and it's based on the XB1200, which is like an urban street fighter type of bike. It's an upright sport bike. With this, they raised the suspension a couple of inches. They added bark busters and a dirt bike front fender, and declared it and rubber, and they declared it to be an adventure bike. An adventure bike means that, well, you're gonna go on it and you're gonna crunch the miles and go to like interesting places, and which I'm not an adventure bike guy, like at all, right? But you know, I'll play along. The bike's invited me to do it. Sure, I'll go. So, adventure bike implies that you're gonna get on this thing, hit the road, find all sorts of, you know, crazy out of the way spots and twisty, turny dirt roads and gravel roads and stuff like that. And it is way capable on gravel and dirt. But unless you live right near where you're gonna go have your adventure, it's really not a good bike at all. Because it doesn't have the elements needed to be a good road bike. It's too stiff, it's too upright. You ride it in too alert of a way, right? And I've played with handlebar positions and stuff like that to try to, you know, make it a little more comfortable for, you know, a longer ride. But like 75 or 100 miles on this thing will beat you up. By the time you get to where you're going to have your adventure, you're ready to turn around and go home. So that's the thing. It's an adventure bike, but it's not a real adventure bike. It's not soft. It doesn't invite you to crunch miles. So in that respect, it's a loser. But in every other respect, it's just amazing. What a charismatic, fun motorcycle. Like, it's got the bags on it. I hate bags on motorcycles, but I've kept the hard bags on this. Okay, I'm not packing rain gear and boots and spare helmets and stuff in there. I use this thing to do grocery shopping. I use it for parts runs. So yeah, okay, maybe a different version of adventure than was originally intended, but nevertheless, it's an adventure every time you get on it. The motor is responsive. It's got torque on top of torque. From about 2,000 RPM right up to like 5,000 RPM. and its sweet spot is about 2,500. Which, yeah, okay, if you're a Harley Davidson guy, you know, you can respect the low RPM power of these things. It's a little out of place in the world of motorcycles, where like the fun starts at 6,000, 7,000 RPM. But between like 2 and 5,000, man, this thing pulls. It's a wheelie toy. It's fun. It's 100 horsepower, but it feels like more. But just because it rolls the torque on the way it does. The ergos, like I said, are the bike's real downfall. To make this thing really perfect, it would need a cushier seat. The pegs are too far back. They've got to be moved forward a little bit, but you can't really do that because of the way the bike is constructed. The shifter is a little too inboard. When you're going for a quick upshift or downshift, especially like a downshift, you have to kind of look for the shifter to make it happen. You get used to it after a while, but it's not a natural, happy position. And it's not a good position for long rides. It comes with this short windscreen. Now, I've tried 2 different windscreens on this. One about yay tall and one about yay tall. But I ride with an open face helmet probably 95% of the time, and the buffeting is just like off the chain. So the stock short one that it comes with, it's the best of the bunch. Mechanically, I haven't had any problems with this, and other than just changing the oil, it's the only maintenance I've done. I should throw a belt on it. It's got the original belt still, and I'll probably get around to doing that before the summer is over. But the only issue I've had with this is I get a check engine light, pops on, comes on and goes off, and it's related to the actuator for the tuned exhaust. So this thing has a muffler with long and short passages inside. It's an active exhaust, and the actuator is mounted under this cover here. This isn't the tank. If you guys are familiar with these bikes, this is actually the fuel tank. The frame rails are the fuel tank. This is just an airbox cover, and it's got the actuator mounted under there and a cable that runs underneath to operate the exhaust. So the actuator comes and goes, and when it goes out, it turns the check engine light on. It's something I just haven't gotten around to fixing, and it really doesn't affect the performance of the bike enough to worry about, so I just leave it. Now, you know, we were talking about crunching miles. One bike that I don't think that I would recommend is that they made a touring version of this, XB12X T, and with that bike, they lowered the suspension 3 inches, and they softened it up a little bit, but it still has the same ergos as this, as far as the seating, as far as the handlebars go. So it's not a good touring bike. I wouldn't recommend it as a touring bike. Urban street fighter, yeah, absolutely, but you know, crunching miles on this thing is really not in the cards. The problem with the actuator, the other thing, this bike's got a lot of quirks. It has a lot of personality, it has a lot of quirks. And it's so lovable that you overlook the quirks, and you're just like, okay, you know, I'll deal with that, because every time I twist the throttle, it's just fun. But the cooling of this thing, it's got air ducts that direct air to the air-cooled 1200cc Sportster engine. The back cylinder gets hot. That's what these air ducts are for the back cylinder. When you ride this thing in any sort of traffic for any amount of time, the heat in this area is so intense, you'll start to get a burn on the inside part of your leg. Like, I mean, it's bad. At one point, it was last year, it was like one of the first time I took this thing, just going to spend the day out on the Ulysses. At one point, it was about 100 degrees that day and sunny, and it was in traffic, and at one point I actually had to pull over and get off the bike and let the damn thing cool off. It was literally burning my leg. But again, you overlook the quirks because of the fun factor of this thing. The fun factor is just amazing. It will wheelie anytime, anywhere. It's just responsive. It's heavy. It's almost 500 pounds. It doesn't feel like 500 pounds. Especially when you're on it, right? This bike becomes weightless, like any competent, sporty type of bike would. Just this one is a little surprising because of the height and the mass that it has. I thoroughly enjoy this bike. And like I said, it's joined the permanent fleet now. It's not going anywhere. I'll ride this thing until I'm not able to ride it anymore. And you know, you get to my age, you start to look at stuff like that because it's a very top-heavy bike to maneuver around. Again, once it's under motion, it's like, it's happy, it's light, it's weightless. But maneuvering it around is a bit, I'm 5'10", I'm on my tippy toes. I may lower the suspension an inch or two on this, but I haven't done it yet. I'm kind of reluctant to do it, but it's a difficult bike to maneuver around in you know what I'm saying, low speed, in and out of parking spaces, that sort of stuff. It's a bit much. But again, the fun factor is there. This bike presses all the right buttons. It makes all the right sounds. It has all the right feel. You jump on this bike, you feel like you're ready to take on any challenge until you've sat still on it on the road for like an hour, and it's just like, okay, yeah, challenge met, I'm done. But you get the general idea. It's an awesome twisty road bike. It's, you know, back roads, fire roads, that sort of stuff. You can't beat this thing, but not one to crunch miles on. And that's okay for me because I'm not a mileage cruncher. I'm not a motorcycle road trip type of guy. You know, if I'm going to go any place for any distance, any amount of time, I'm taking a vehicle. I'm taking a four-wheel vehicle. Other people live for motorcycle trips, and I get it. It's just not for me. What else with this thing? Fuel mileage, it doesn't exactly sip the fuel. 40 miles to the gallon, 35, 40 miles to the gallon, and you better have good gas in it because, like I said, it runs hot. The back cylinder runs really hot. 93, octane super, and it'll still ping. If you lug it on a hot day like today, it's about 95 degrees, it'll ping. So you get used to just rolling on the throttle easy until the mass is under motion or it just rattles. So that's my review and quick impressions of the Buell Ulysses after living with it for a year and a few thousand miles. It's a keeper. I love the bike. It's not what it's supposed to be though. If you're looking for a true adventure bike, a true like dual sport, a Triumph Tiger, a KLR, much better choices for that sort of thing. If you want to go out there and attack those gravel roads, back roads, and rooster tail through them and stuff like that, well, here, this is the bike. But getting there, it's not fun. It's not fun. So there you go. The Buell Ulysses, impulse bike, spontaneity pays. I'll see you tomorrow.